There we are.
Welcome to Minot Talk.
This special Tuesday morning. Well, that's actually not special. It's regular.
Yeah.
It's regular too. I tried to do a funny voice too. I'm sorry. Good
Thank
morning.
you for apologizing.
I will always apologize.
Okay.
How's the Starman this morning?
You know what? We're doing well. And you?
I am great. I've been here for the daily brief. I got some real sleep last night. It was
Good
a
job.
blast.
Oh, yeah. We didn't have a marathon city council meeting.
It wasn't as much as I like every time. Like, oh, it's gonna be a 4-hour meeting too.
You know what? I honestly, good turnout.
It
Good
was.
turnout. But it wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be. I thought that place was going to be packed.
Yeah.
There was empty chairs.
Like I showed up late, and I was thinking I was going to have to stand in the back, and there were chairs available.
I'm still curious about the idea of how we could get a food truck or pizza. Like I kind of want to do is just go buy like 20 Little Caesars and just hand them out when people are walking into city council.
That'd be an idea. Just have it sitting in the lobby kind of thing.
But I feel like they'd tell us
They
we
wouldn't
couldn't do
like
that.
that. Yeah, they wouldn't like
I
that.
feel like that
Have
would
to do it in the parking lot.
That'd be the move. So everyone just walks in with Little Caesars. Yeah.
I wonder, is there anything that's I don't think there's anything that says no outside food or drink.
Yeah, I mean they don't sell it inside,
Exactly.
so I mean
I haven't seen something that says you can't have food in the chambers.
yeah, I mean
I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me.
Yeah.
Also, don't.
We'll
go
probably
into
find out.
Yeah. Someone will let us know.
Yeah.
Also, probably don't go into the chambers just trying to.
Well, someone brought
make a meal off it.
popcorn, which is pretty fantastic too.
Yeah. There's a couple meetings where we could have used food there. Those like 5-hour ones that have
Yeah,
happened
yeah.
a couple times.
When we get
It's
back
been
into
good.
budget, we're gonna have to figure something out.
Yeah, I think so. We'll have to reach out. If you have a food truck and you're thinking about it, let us know. We can work.
Oh, dude,
Try to collaborate here or
it'd
something.
be a blast.
We can make something happen. It'll be a blast. But yeah, there was a city council meeting last night. I guess
There was a city council meeting last night. Honestly, thought there was going to be more discussion on the CIP, the capital improvement plan. There wasn't.
Not a ton.
So
They breezed through that.
obviously there was a special meeting that they had on that a couple weeks ago, and so probably a lot of the direction was given then.
This is true. Well, yeah, and because they had like a 3-hour meeting just on the CIP, and they discussed everything in depth there. I'm sure most of the direction was given at that point too.
Right.
From the little bit I listened, they went pretty in depth on that one. Also, before we dive into stuff, shout out to the city. What was her name? I have Brittany Thurston, Minot HR associate, that was recognized by the North Dakota Safety Council as an emerging safety champion. Big shout out there. That was neat to see.
Then it was also mentioned by Harold Stewart that the director for Visit Minot, Stephanie Shanerock, got some love from the governor.
The gov himself last week when he popped in Minot for like a couple hours to give a speech at the State Fair Center, talking about some tourism awards that were going on.
Across North Dakota.
That.
Hey, you make that sound like you got like animosity with the governor.
I've never met Kelly. My brother's name is Kelly. I got nothing against Kellys.
All right. Just making sure.
I would love to
Just
talk
making
to
sure.
everything I've heard, he's a super nice guy.
Yeah. Governor's legendary award for travel and tourism industry leadership, and her picture got put on the Governor Armstrong's Facebook page. So good for
Heck yeah.
good for the executive director of Visit Minot, Stephanie Shanerock. There was another topic that was well talked about.
Yeah.
Wait. Before that, there was some. So of course, Mayor Mark Janser was out of town.
Yeah. He was there via Teams.
He was still via Teams, which is really important right now.
Yeah.
Because we're at a limited city council as it is. So we had 6 members present, one of them virtually, but that left now city council president Lisa Olson, next one up, and she ran the meeting. And so at the beginning there was some instruction given, which was fantastic.
Yeah, especially with that big of a crowd.
Yeah, the 5 minutes. You can't yield your time to the next person. It was said, and it was said that it was Robert's Rules of Orders. I'm unclear whether it's actually Robert's Rules of Orders or whether it's just how the city council
instruction by the chair
is set to run, of no politicking at the dais, and somebody got in trouble for that. And then also no, there is not an expectation that your questions will be answered. It is just a public hearing where you can say how you feel, but there's not supposed to be an expectation where your question gets answered. So I honestly, I already mentioned my one question on it, but overall, I thought that was a good thing.
No, I agree completely. When I listened to it again, because I missed the first hour of the meeting, so getting a chance to re-listen to it last night when I got home, I thought that was awesome. And it made so much, because later on, before the actual public appearances section, she kind of reiterated some of those comments, and she's like, "I'm speaking again," but made sense why she said that now.
Right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I think it was necessary, and just as a, even if it's not Robert's Rules of Orders, just as a rule of order for the city council meeting, it was incredible.
No, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. So then we got into a big topic, and that was of liquor licenses.
Yeah, we had Tony Mueller on yesterday on a special Monday.
Yeah, it was. How did you like that?
It was fun.
It was definitely a Monday.
It was.
Like, I'm way more sharp today than I was yesterday.
I was not. I'm not going to lie.
Isn't that crazy?
I was not 100% with it yesterday.
Yeah,
my
it's
head hurt
so
all day,
weird.
But I am feeling it today. I'm ready to rumble.
Yeah, Mondays are just, I don't know what it is about Monday.
I hate Mondays.
I don't want to say that. I got to find a way to love them.
Well, there's a song called "I Hate Mondays."
Okay,
that
gotcha. All right,
Anyways,
so we did,
into
and thank you to everyone that watched that special one.
For a fact, if you did check that out, we appreciate all of you for doing so. And Tony had some great points that he made during that.
Aside from that, give us feedback on whether or not you like that. Obviously, we do our one-off podcast where we have one-on-one interviews, and we'll keep on doing those, and they have their place. But just going live on important topics in Minot with people
who are maybe
where it's timely, though.
Yeah,
exactly. The key part is where it's timely,
and also maybe not every time with like a. I love having them on. I'm not saying we're never going to do it. I want to have them on as much as we can, but not doing it with a city council member every time. Having someone that's actually affected by it from the city.
Right. Yeah.
That is
another one we wanted to do on, and we just never had the opportunity. But we still may do it because it's still a topic. As daycares.
Yeah. Childcare. Yep.
Yeah.
And especially if that ends up coming up again when the that committee reconvenes and finds some future possibilities of where they could head to. I think that would be an incredibly timely thing to have on.
Right.
We could even, this is spitballing here, production talk. We could even do an unfiltered on it. Have a couple different sides of it.
Yeah. That's spitballing. We'll talk about that later. But
I guarantee nothing, folks.
Liquor licenses.
Yeah.
All right, so first off, let's just give the rundown real fast. So if you don't know what happened with it, basically a lot of conversation happened. It was just supposed to be a public hearing where there was input gained. At the end of the day, there was not supposed to be, based off the agenda, there was supposed to be direction given to council given to the city staff. That was it. That was all that was supposed to come from this. And they said, you know what, there's a lot, the council members said, there's a lot that we took in here. We need to go and digest what we had, maybe ask a few more questions before we give full direction on actually a path that we want to investigate further. And City Council President Lisa Olson said, also, I think when we actually make a final vote on this, we need to have a 7-member council. And I agree with her completely, because right now, if you get 3 nays on something like that, it fails. It's just done. And so on a topic that is going to affect Minot for years, I think it's really a good idea that we wait till we have a full council. So kudos to her for that.
Then I think it was Blessum that picked or did through the date of like early September.
Yeah, it was basically the first council meeting in September is when they will just begin to talk about it again.
The conversation will be brought back up.
Yep. And so at that point, we will anticipate direction be given to city staff.
Yep. And because at that point, I think it was, I don't know if it was Blessum or Olson that were talking about it, but there will, after the mayor election happens, there's a chance that there could be a special election for the city council member. Yeah.
So then, and that could push it all the way out into the beginning of
end of this year into the beginning of next year.
Which is crazy. Hey, you know what? I know that people really don't care about how I feel on this, but if you have an idea to collect signatures on that one, please don't. Just let them appoint somebody. Let's get those applications. Go to the public meetings. Go and advocate for somebody as hard as you can at those meetings. Call up your council people. Advocate for that person as hard as you can, and let them appoint one just so we can get a full city council. Because I tell you what, we're supposed to talk about liquor licenses, but not having a full council, it just feels off. I know that. How does it affect me in my daily life? And, Sean called me out and all that. I kid. But dude, it does not feel right not having them all there.
It's different.
Honestly, it doesn't feel right having a mayor that's like, because of the, like, if Janser would have been appointed and we would have moved on, it would have felt fine. It's not that. It's just now that there's an election coming up and we don't have an elected mayor in place right now, it also makes it feel a little bit uneasy.
Hectic. Yeah. Especially that first meeting after everything happened.
First meeting, but still you feel it. You still feel it.
It was really,
it hasn't gone away. I thought it'd go away. It hasn't gone away.
There. I agree with that completely. There's a
we could dive more into that, but maybe the city will cover that on one of their podcasts.
Yeah. Also, hey, shout out City of Minot. Every Monday of city council meetings, I think that's what their schedule is. They're releasing a little, like, 10, 20-minute podcast.
To go over the agenda?
Yeah. Talking, I think they call it the Minot Minutia. So,
very cool.
Yeah. Now, to actually dive into the discussion that was taking place there. Also, real fast too, while we're still slightly on the topic, if the mayor election happens and then another election's to take place, we won't have a 7-person council until like middle to end of November. Just saying on that regard. That's at the soonest.
If there's a special election
for the city council member.
Yeah.
So just to add more context to that with how the dates are set up for everything.
95 days?
Yeah.
Well, because they'll have to wait. So it's not 95 days. It's 100 and from the mayoral election, it's 110 days, right?
Fair. So yeah, it would be from August, 110 days from August 5th. So you'd be looking into December, but also I think, isn't there a thing that says that a special election can't be less than 6 months before the
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the special election can be less than 6 months or if it initiated. I'm not sure where that 6 months triggers.
But to clarify it all on that, it will be a mess that we maybe don't need to get into at that point.
Yeah.
We can just move on to next year's election.
I think that would be a great, especially with how close it would be. All right. So jump into the liquor licenses. All right. So we had a lot of discussion from bar owners. That was
who showed up.
Which is interesting because it's kind of, you saw the same pattern with the childcare. You saw a lot of daycare owners and childcare operators be the ones that showed up and spoke out and advocated for that. And you saw that happen again. And I think that was received really well with the childcare stuff. And so it was interesting to see that happen again with the bar owners, where it's the people that are probably being impacted the most. I think
there was only one private citizen that spoke at the public hearing, I believe. Maybe two, but I think only one that I can think of for sure.
Yeah. No, two. I think two.
Was there two? Okay.
Because I believe Wolski spoke to it, right?
Yeah, you're right. Wolski did speak there. And we're going to talk about a little bit about his kind of plan too.
Yeah, he had a really unique approach, which is interesting.
Yeah, and it's worth at least breaking down a little bit. So we'll get into that in a minute here. But it started off with
the rain. Yeah.
Paul Pittner.
Oh, yeah. He made an opening statement. He's been the chair of the committee.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that this was a initiative that started by former Mayor Tom Ross.
Yep.
And Paul was given direction to be the chair of the committee. And I'm not sure how the initial committee was formed. And then obviously there was one person that stepped off. And then as chair, Paul was able to find Alderman Pittner was able to find a replacement for that person that had stepped off.
And in his comments, he said he lobbied hard to get Kevin Black to be on the committee. He thought that he was going to be a very valuable person. And now over the weekend, there was a lot of things thrown around online, and we have an article up about that from Alderman Pittner went and made a statement about it, and he then addressed it again a little bit in his opening statements yesterday, just trying to cover a little bit of some of the questions that have been raised on if he could benefit from it, frankly. That's a lot of what's come up about it. If he or his direct family could benefit from it. In his live stream, he said that he would he would be up for a resolution saying that him or any direct family members can't own a bar. He reiterated those comments again last night, and I frankly, I don't feel that he or any of his direct family probably have any intentions to open a bar themselves.
Yeah. I honestly agree with that. I don't feel like this is a deal where Alderman Pittner is trying to get this removed so that way he can go open a bar. And honestly, if he was doing that, and who knows where it goes. It depends on how unique your idea is and if that barrier of entry. But I mean, part of your exclusivity to your idea would be that cap was nice.
Yeah.
Because it makes it where it's difficult for the next person to replicate what you're trying to do. Yeah. But that being said, maybe if you're actually to go down that line, then you'd have to go look back how many licenses were available when the committee started.
Yeah.
Because that would be
if there was nothing available
right.
at that point, then that could have been part of that incentive to get that kicked off.
But I will be honest, I don't buy into that there are ideas that I have, okay, but I don't buy into this idea that Alderman Pittner is doing this as a self-serving thing.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And I think he's made it abundantly clear at this point too.
Right.
And I think at this point, if anything converse to what he said or inverse to what he said happens, I feel like that's fully justified to go out.
Right.
But I don't think, again, I don't think that he or his family have any intentions of starting a bar at this point.
And also, we had a discussion with a bar owner yesterday. We've also reached out to somebody that's on the committee. We've reached out to Kevin Black. Yeah. And I'm not sure scheduling is going to be unique there. I'm not sure if we'll ever be able to get that podcast, but he's open to conversation. He was like, hey, we can do a phone call. We can do whatever. It's not anything that it's just going to be scheduling and how it all works out. So it may not happen soon. Maybe it happens closer to when the discussion comes back up in September, but
summer,
but we are working on that because I think that would be a good discussion. We would sit down with Alderman Pittner, but he's running for mayor and we had all these rules that we had to put in place about all that stuff. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're standing on that. But definitely, yeah, I'm not fully into that argument.
No, I agree with that. And he cleared up some other little misconceptions with it at the start there, touched on a couple different things before it really opened the floor for public hearing. At that
also,
point.
there was a statement that was made by Kevin Black because his name got ran into it too.
Right,
there was a statement that was sent to the city council.
He sent a big email
and he forwarded it on to us as well. And in that, he addressed, some have said my involvement was a conflict of interest, even though the city of Minot asked me to provide my perspective. For the record, a full liquor license holder was also on the committee to represent his perspective and those of other full liquor license holders. Our committee conversations were open to the public, comprehensive, transparent, frank, and respectful. To be abundantly clear, our entities, Kevin Black's entities, separate club license, are completely sufficient, and we have absolutely no interest in pursuing a full license or establishing a bar, regardless of your decisions. So he kind of addressed that as well, and obviously, at the beginning, he was like, "This is who I am." Like, yeah. So I don't think he was trying to play some sleight of hand either.
No.
So that it's an interesting caveat on this whole thing. Maybe there's something deeper. But on the surface level, I don't see anything. Yeah.
If there is some deeper hidden thing that we can't find out, I guess we'll figure it out later.
We'll find that out in time.
Yeah. But as of now, I think it's pretty, in my mind, obvious that he doesn't have any further intentions into it. But again, that was a lot of his comments with the whole thing.
Yep.
That led into the public hearing.
It did.
And that's when you had all of the bar owners start coming up. First one was the owner of the Ranger, and he raised some really interesting points. He was talking about the possible legal ramifications that could come from it.
Yeah.
And how there's not really a lot of any national precedent for something like this to happen. There's some similar parallels, like there's a taxi cap that happened in Minnesota, some kind of a peanut production cap that happened in Georgia at some point in time, but there's not a true one-for-one parallel for this that's happened.
And this is the part that like does create mystery about the whole thing, because it obviously we're being told it's green light from outside attorney that we're good to go on this.
Yeah, if something does happen, odds are Minot should be fine on it.
Now we haven't seen the actual basis of what this green light comes from, but based off of what was said, there's like the green light is simply there's other precedents that could apply. Not it's happened here. You guys are gonna be fine. Like this is something that happens and you're fine.
Yeah, because this is a fairly unique situation how it's being presented right now.
And one thing, and I obviously at some point I have to become a journalist, but and this would be something for us to look into is because it's been said it was removed in Grand Forks and Fargo. That's the words that are being used. And if it was removed in Grand Forks and Fargo, what was the repercussions that happened there? Did they go and they
still have a high
barrier of entry,
yeah.
But did they, and so is that why there was no repercussion? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And that's possible, and I think that's probably a fair bit of where it comes from. I think especially with Kevin Black's proposal from and again, I don't know a ton about what specifically happened in Grand Forks and Fargo, but from the surface level of what I know and what I've seen, I think the option 3, that Kevin Black's proposal, is the closest parallel to those.
Yeah.
Just because you still have that high barrier of entry, but you also have that right of refusal, and that's the big thing with that for sale, first sale right of refusal, and I think that's probably a big caveat that allows some of those current license holders to, still feel like they'll have the ability to move on from their license and still recap most of that value.
And he mentioned in his email, he recognizes the insensitivity of diminishing or diluting the liquor license values of current holders. Right, wrong, or different, they have played by the rules and don't deserve a devaluation of an important asset to their businesses. So he was seeking a compromise that stood on free market, which I myself am a huge fan of, and still keeping their A value attached to it. And of course, I believe the owner of the Ranger said, I mean, even at that, somebody paid more than the value that you guys place on it.
Yeah, but $210,000.
But that's not their problem. I don't agree. I think the city placed a value on these. They did. Whether we like it or not, the city placed a value, and they placed it at $100,000.
That was the minimum bid to get into the ground when these were those four were brought up in 2021 or 2021?
I think in 2021 was when they were actually bidded on and everything, but it was based off the 2020 census.
Yeah.
And I'm not an attorney, so I don't know what the legal ramifications of it, but I feel like that places a value on every single liquor license, not just the 4.
Yeah.
Because now they have set the market at $100,000.
That places a floor on their value at that point.
So some people may have paid too much, and some people may have not paid anything. But the value of their liquor license is now $100,000.
That's setting a precedent for value of it at that point. When
of every single one of them.
When you have, at this point, you have to have this minimum of a bid to get into the game. Like I think there was like $102,000 that was a bid for one of them that was successful, but like that's still, they had to be above that $100,000 mark.
Yeah, if you look at those bids, a lot of them were like under 150. There was only, from our understanding, there was only 4 of them that were submitted. There was 4 licenses and 4 got submitted.
Yeah.
And all of them were under 150,000 except Target's, which was 210.
Yeah. And again, there's coming from a major corporation, there's a difference in.
Yeah, but they just wanted it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. They have the ability to go and overspend for something like that. But on the inverse of that, with the owner of the Ranger, what he was saying too is because that $100,000 value has been now effectively set as a precedent, that could potentially open up someone that did overpay for it to go and try to seek ramification or reimbursement for that missed value.
And maybe they have a pathway there. I don't think so.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be a tough one.
But on the other hand, it was mentioned later by Alderman Pittner that the city only placed a value on those 4. And I don't agree with that. I think when they placed a value, it applied to all of them.
No, and they may have only intended to place the value on those 4, but I think by placing a value on it, period, sets a precedent that shows this is what we think they're worth.
Right.
Or we think they are worth no less than this.
Yeah, it's not even they think. It says these are worth no less, because if you do it for less,
we're not accepting it.
We as the person, we won't even accept your bid.
Yeah, we won't even look at it.
Which it would have been interesting if the minimum bid was 25,000 back then. And I used 25,000 arbitrarily, not because that's in one of the proposals, just to see how many proposals would have been presented then.
Yeah, instead of 4, do you get 6 or 7?
Yeah, right.
Who knows?
And that would have been very interesting to know. So that was the Ranger, owner of the Ranger.
After him, then you had Josh Wolski come up, and he had.
He just blew everyone's minds.
Yeah, he had a very interesting proposal. And
he had a proposal that took longer than 5 minutes.
Yeah, but he was gifted an additional time.
And
he asked
honestly,
the chair for it,
I think it was deserving, because it was not just not ramrodding. I was going to say that, and that's derogatory, but it wasn't just saying, hey, I don't like this. This is going to affect this. This is going to affect this. He was bringing a whole new concept.
Yeah, he had a specific proposal that he had thought of that he was outlining for council at that point, and he was wrapping up. So he got done maybe 6.5 minutes instead of the 5.
Yep.
Not a big deal, I don't think, in that context. So the basis of it is, so there are different versions of liquor licenses. We touched on it vaguely this morning and yesterday a little bit more, but there's a supper club license for places that, effectively restaurants that want to serve alcohol as well. Then there's off sale and on sale licenses. So you have the on sale, it's for liquor stores versus bars. Simple as that. And he would effectively be adding, so he would want to see the cap on liquor licenses in general come off. However, he would like to see further regulation come into place where you put more caps or regulations onto gambling facilities, places that can take charitable gambling, because of just the sheer how much that industry has risen over the last 5 years. And it's an interesting concept because the profit that allows, or that is potentially can come from those is pretty high.
Right.
And he's saying rather than restrict the liquor licenses, restrict people being able to get into the gambling industry on it.
So basically just make it where the liquor licenses are uncapped, but move that cap over to the gaming.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what needs to be capped nowadays.
And because you have, I mean, I think every bar that I can think of has gambling machines in them, the electronic pull tabs.
So how does that work though? And you don't have the answers, but maybe I missed something here. So like take Spicy Pie. They shouldn't have a full liquor license, I would want to think, because I would
think they would be a separate club.
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So, but they have gaming. So is this going to be a deal where, is this going to create problems in that gaming does not only happen at the places that have liquor licenses, full liquor licenses?
Potentially. It could be opening up for other locations or industries to try to get those licenses themselves.
Well, they're already there though, so they're already going to need one, right? What I'm saying is it's way more widespread than just places that have full liquor licenses.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right on that, because like Wings and Rings has them. I think B-Dubs does.
Yeah.
And so you're having these things in places that aren't just strictly bars.
Right.
So could you even expand that off of that to where places that
the ratio would probably have to be different.
Yeah, you would have to reevaluate that heavily. And it's an interesting concept. It's unique, and it's not something that I'd really thought of with it. I don't know if it solves the liquor license problem necessarily. So we'd have to ask him specifically, because with the people.
Well, his point was that, I think part of his point was this: like, you're either going to have a unique idea, or you're going to need a liquor or you're going to need the gaming in order to survive. I think that was basically the mental construct came from. So if you have a unique idea, it's probably not going to just be another bar that's open late that you go drink and watch a game at, or go and listen to music or whatever, right? There's going to be a unique idea that's going to make you successful otherwise. Or you're going to need gaming in order to keep your doors open. I don't know. It's different, but it goes back to the deal of, I thought that we were trying to fight for stuff to be deregulated here.
And you're deregulating something to only regulate something else. So it's that directly a little bit of a catch-22, but generally for the liquor caps, at least he's saying full deregulation for them.
Right. Yep.
And I think at least from what we got, I think that generally sums up his kind of proposal. Yeah. And I mean, we might end up talking to him more about it and getting.
One thing that's interesting is he pulled in Charleston, South Carolina, which it was made later that we're not Charleston. I agree with that. Off the bat, I agreed with that. It didn't take for someone else to mention it. But how the restaurant industry really went and changed that town. I think we've seen that in the downtown area for us.
Yeah. Especially if you get those places that are a lot of those really unique kind of places. Like even look at before they moved from the High Third building, Don Tapatio's, how busy they were downtown. And they had like almost no parking, and something like that was incredibly unique though. Yeah. And just the location of it. Now you have like Iron Horse and Whiskey 9. You have
one that's forgotten about downtown is Starving Rooster.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that place is packed all the time.
That's one of the original ones from downtown when the revitalization started down there. Like
they do right.
And they've been there forever. Even to a lesser extent, you have Charlie's still downtown, which is one of the mainstay breakfast cafes in Minot. I mean, it's downtown has really done a great job accentuating that point.
I'll say this though: people have invested in downtown.
That's true.
Not mentally, but intentionally chosen to invest in downtown with some of these restaurants, and probably some of them they didn't make money right out of the gate. Maybe they're still trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, I know there was a couple that didn't even work at times. Like it happens.
Yep.
You can't guarantee everything, but generally speaking, this is where a lot of that I don't want to say the hub of Minot, but or the heart of Minot, but a lot of things are being built up consistently and seeing success.
Thomas, you mentioned on the gambling that it's a pretty interesting take, and I agree with you. I think we're going to talk about regulation itself as a point, and I think the gambling might come back up in that conversation.
Yeah.
But I do think that restaurants can have, I mean, you still have Prairie Sky Bread, you have a lot, and there's potentially opportunities for more.
Yeah.
I think though we have to be careful in that to make sure, okay, we see this work other places, but we're not Charleston, we're not Fargo, we're not even Bismarck, we're not Grand Forks, we're not those places. So
Minot's a unique place.
It's a unique place, and there's a way for us to continue to grow. There is, I think there is, but we're not a destination city.
No,
though it's a beautiful city, and there's no, it is beautiful.
I was gonna say no. Okay. Yeah, we love Minot. We're not saying we don't. We're not trying to disparage it, but we're not.
So we can't have 50 restaurants downtown and be successful, and nobody's saying that we can. No. But
to try to emulate one for one what a Bismarck, Grand Forks, or Fargo
that's
does,
what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's not something that we can generally do and succeed at. There are instances where we'll be able to pull things and we can do it, but as a grand scale kind of thing, it's something that we can't parallel.
So let's take the core principles of it and figure out how to make it Minot.
Yeah, exactly. Take the ideas that they present and try to formulate them into something that works for Minot, rather than just saying they do this, so Minot needs to do this the same way.
Yeah. So after Wolski,
gosh, who was up after that? I have it here. That was Tony, Sports on Tap.
Hey.
Tony came back up. He, if you want to know Tony's opinions, go watch our video from yesterday. We have almost 45 minutes of discussion with him. He goes in depth on a lot of different things, but generally he doesn't want to see the cap removed.
And then after Tony, that was
the attorney from Marketplace and
Jessica
some
Klein.
Other.
Basically, she said, prefer just to keep the cap in place. If it has to be removed, we would like the high barrier to entry at 125 or between 100 and 150K.
Yeah, they don't want to see a change, but if there is a change, they would prefer that option 3.
Yeah, makes sense.
After her, we had Anthony Barrett from the Drop Zone.
Anthony Barrett mentioned that he was not going to come up, but his name got mentioned in the opening statements. And so he went up to address that, and basically he was just talking about a potential conflict of interest that Alderman Pittner might have, asked himself to recuse himself from any vote on that.
Reiterated a lot of things that were discussed online over the weekend, pretty much.
I think, I don't know. I can't go that far. I can't go that far that a council person should have to recuse themselves. There are times that they need to, when something is being directly affected, when they have actual property that we're voting on. I don't know. Yeah. I'm
just a general, parallel for it. Say a council member in the city of Minot owns a building that is being sold, and the city of Minot wants to buy that building.
Right. Yep.
That's a perfect place where they would recuse themselves on that vote.
Exactly.
This is a lot more indirect with this one.
And there's probably even lesser circumstances if you're looking at tax breaks, application for a TIF, anything like that. Then I could
Renaissance zone.
Yeah, I could see stuff like that. But this one, I don't think that there needs to be a full recusal. Alderman Pittner said that he would
support a resolution,
support an amendment,
or an amendment that him or any of his direct family would not own a barn.
Yeah, I think it was him. Maybe if his direct family might have been his wife, if that's what
you have to look at the actual wording for it. But generally, he would he vehemently said that he wouldn't start a bar in Minot.
Right. Yeah.
And also alluded that his family wouldn't either. But that's we'd have to look at the actual wording to get that one. Yeah,
exactly right. So I thought it was fair for Anthony Barrett to come up and talk because he was mentioned in the opening statement. So he kind of just brought more clarity to exactly what was going on there, where his viewpoint came from, and made some interesting points.
Yeah, and we'll talk about a little bit of a back and forth that happened there in a little bit.
Yeah, there was a response to that.
Yeah, but first, there was more people. You had Billy Gunderson come up. She attends a lot of city council meetings, and there was she made some great points with some of the regulations that happen on this issue. Maybe Minot doesn't need more.
Right.
Bars, and this is something that the city should be doing, is putting a limit on certain things like this specifically. She made a very interesting counterpoint to a lot of what the presentation had been on. Minot maybe doesn't need all of these additional things.
I think the biggest deal is this is like, we got to remember that this is a substance that, if not properly treated, used, controlled, can cause problems. And she brought up cases where people had their lives affected because of people driving under the influence. And I understand that whether we have 50 bars in Minot or whether we have 2, people are still going to drive under the influence because there's going to be accessibility to
still going to happen, but just being able to mitigate it, because the more you have, the more places they can come from, and that just leads to more routes they can take.
Honestly, the safest place, and this is me probably just shooting from my hip, but in theory, the safest place for someone to drink is at home, right?
Yeah.
The dangerous part is them getting behind the wheel of a car and potentially have too much.
Now we're getting into semantics, but drinking at home can lead to its own problems of itself.
Yeah,
when you drink alone at home, that's not a good thing, folks.
Yeah, right.
That can lead to problems
there's going to be problems in every probably deal, but what we're presented at council is kind of what we're going along here.
Because she brought up the whole churches versus bars argument. It's like,
churches but then she also brought up cases where people's lives were impacted by a drunk driver.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, do you want to? Because she was saying, when asking directions for something, they were giving her directions between, from a bar and a church perspective of where something's at. And she was saying, do you want to live in a city where you compare directions to where a bar's at, kind of thing?
Interesting argument. I mean, when we moved here, though, just before we were moving here, we got told directions based off the big tree. You go down this road, and when you get to the big tree, then you take a right. And you're like, okay, yeah, we come from Oregon. We're like, dude, there's entire forest where we're from. So how are we going to be able to find this tree? But sure enough, there was one big tree.
And as soon as you saw it, you knew it.
Yeah.
That's fun. But that was a lot of her take on it. After her, you had...
Lisa Hermosillo mentions, I'd like to see a change made to the podium. She has advocated on this for so long. I mean, yeah, so to go down that path, like, if you understand her story, she shared some of her story. You can watch City Council to understand that more, but she's in a wheelchair. And it was, the podium is difficult for her to use. She's forced to use a different table, whatever. And so some of that stuff is a little bit not fair.
Yeah. It's not the most handicapped accessible facility.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not, but it's not as well as it could be.
Yep.
And she has made that point very clear, and it would
and she's done good by reiterating it.
Yeah, and it wouldn't hurt to see a change come from it.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
I don't know what that change specifically would be, but I think it prompts a point that something should probably come from it.
Yep.
Yeah. And gosh, who do we have after her? Oh, we had Ms. Hovde, the owner of the Capri, and she a lot of her points was that there's arguably too many bars in Minot now. The more competition that comes in is just going to hurt everyone involved in that regard.
There's one pie.
Yeah, it was reiterating that argument largely, and she was more of if there is to be a change, maybe raise the cap kind of thing, raise the amount of cap,
but still hurts that.
And
then Arnie's 2.0 came up, Melissa, right?
Yep, and she was. I believe, she was the one that was from South Carolina originally.
So Charleston.
Yep.
We ain't Charleston.
Yep.
And that's understandable. But again, I think a little bit goes. Some of the owners viewed this as a retirement asset. Some of them, there's just several different perspectives on that.
And again, one thing I've hammered on is you can argue all you want. Should it be viewed that way? Should it have been allowed to be viewed that way? But we're at this point. It is viewed that way. It is taken that way, and they have assumed the role of it being an asset for them because they have played by the rules that we've already established. And now there has been precedent set where the city of Minot values these at $100,000.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is at this point, and the value has effectively been set, and you can argue that it's an arbitrary thing that was set for specific licenses, but I'll argue that it's a precedent to be set for the city of Minot minimally valuing these licenses.
Right.
And
so was there anybody after her?
No, she was, I believe she was the end of it. No, there was a gentleman that came up really fast. He spoke for like a minute saying that it wouldn't be the most healthy. I don't remember where he was from, but it wouldn't be the most healthy thing to remove the caps. And then it went back, I believe, to Alderman Pittner to. address some things, readdress some things before council had quite a bit of discussion. And do you want to get into their general discussion, or do you want to go in on what Alderman Pittner said in some of his response?
Let's wait on that. Let's kind of just finish up this liquor license stuff. Mm-hmm. This is my viewpoint on this. We're at 9:40. This is taking a while.
Wow. Time flies when we're having fun.
So this is my view on this. Just based off of everything that I've taken in on this, this could change. All right. But I feel like I'm starting to finally round out how I feel on this. Mm-hmm. My feeling, and I've said this part mostly all along, is there needs to be some type of accountability for this. Mm-hmm. And right now, that accountability is given through a cap. I think that's a good thing.
Wait.
So I'm not done talking.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll make a joke in a second.
The good thing is that there's accountability. That's the good thing. Okay. Sure. That's given to this. I'm very much for free market. Mm-hmm. So if the cap needs to be taken away because the government shouldn't be in the industry of limiting the amount of growth in an industry, because honestly, we've heard the argument about there's only one pie and all that, and this will make some people upset. But I mean, you feel that in every industry. You might find some industry that's a growing one where the pie is not fully baked or whatever, and so there's a chance you don't know how big it's going to be yet or whatever. But generally, once you have an established industry in the city of Minot, it is that industry, and maybe potentially something will cause it to grow for a period of time or whatever. But it is that there's a certain amount of people that are going to partake in it.
Yep. Especially consistently so. You'll always have some people that come into town or go out for a special event, but you're going to consistently have those that go out every weekend. So
that part doesn't, I understand how it's going to change, and I feel bad for them from the humanity standpoint, but from a regulation standpoint or city ordinance standpoint, it's I don't see that argument as much. But I feel like it needs to be somehow, there needs to be some accountability given to it. So a idea that I have that we've kind of spitballed around is, if you look at other industries, if you look at as a real estate agent, they don't care about what college you have. They don't care about who you are or anything like that, but they care that you're licensed as a real estate agent. Yep. And there's continuing education they get to take in order to be a real estate agent.
Continue to have that license.
If you're a loan officer, they don't care about what college you have. They don't care about what your experience is. They don't care if there's 100 loan officers in your town, but they care about that you're licensed to be a loan officer, and they care about that you're continuing education. And we can keep on going through industries where this has happened. So there's some type of accountability that's given. And I understand that the city has ordinances and there's compliance checks and there's all these things that are done. But what if there was some type of construct that was set up that said, if you're going to be a bar owner, you have to go through and you have to pass this test, and there's continuing education you have to do and whatever. And I know this would be something that is not, those other things we talked about are more federally based, they're nationally based. Yeah. And this is something that would be set up more like either at state level or at the city level, which would be crazy.
Which would probably,
at the city level.
Yeah, it would
and that's why this is not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But the point is,
I like what you're going with it,
that there's accountability somewhere along the lines, because we understand that this is not just something that you mess with, and we get the money portion out of it. We're not going to go and create this barrier of entry. We're not here to make money off of this, but we're here to say, hey,
that we have now done something that proves that you show that you have a base of knowledge in this industry.
Yeah.
That you can go and be successful in it, and also be able to follow the rules properly.
And this comes again, probably even the current bar owners aren't going to like that idea. I get that. Okay. But here's the deal. We had a conversation yesterday, and it's some of the stuff there's a lot of law here about it, and we have to learn that. There's no formal process of learning that. Yeah, we just have to learn that. So if you take that, and I think that they've done a good job with that. I'm not casting any stones at what Sports on Top and Sports on Tap has done, but if you take that and apply it across the board, if there's a lot of people that are like, hey, I want to get into this industry because now it's attainable. And we're actually concerned about that.
And he made a point too. A lot of people think it's going to be something that you can get into and make a lot of money off of right away too.
You're not. If you go and create just some type, an education barrier of entry, people don't like that. I mean, there's a lot of people that are in real estate agents right now because they would have to go take a 12-month course, which isn't even that long, but that just
It's a barrier of entry that stops some people.
Stop some. Not a lot, but some.
Also forces you to prove that you have
that's the biggest deal.
Baseline of knowledge in the industry.
Right. Yep.
It can take away a lot of that initial learning curve, and can also show and educate people that getting into this industry might not be what you thought it was.
Right. So that's I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't know if that's a cold take. I don't know if that's a trash take. I don't know what it is. We need to do Hot Take Tuesday again. I understand that concept right there probably won't be implemented. Mm-hmm. Like it probably can't be implemented, but that's where I come from. Mm-hmm. It's like, how can there be some type of accountability that's held there? Just so we know, right now it's said that there's a barrier of entry to it. So it's difficult to get in. So you have to really want it, and you're going to work to understand it, and you're going to care about the laws, and you're going to care about all those things because you want to make sure that your business is successful. It's not something you're just going to do. And perhaps in the other cases, well, and we're not even talking about like outlier effects that would happen, where we've heard that different clubs could then suddenly have a full liquor license and stuff like that could pop up, and that may not be good as well. But if you had this there, then they could totally do that. But there would be somebody that would be accountable for this.
Exactly. It adds a different layer of knowledge base and accountability to it.
Yep.
And also, again, getting something like that implemented would probably be something that would have to come on a state level rather than a city-based level. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, and I don't dislike the idea either, but it just feels like it would be a tangle to get through.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
Thomas says, I think the tragic position of the liquor license problem is its freedom versus the nanny state. Humans given free will make poor decisions. The government's position is to take that freedom away. And I think that's the construct of freedom versus the nanny state. Mm-hmm. And that is a little bit of what's falling in.
Yeah.
It's
one of those.
Yeah. It's like the whole seatbelt thing, right?
It is. It's okay. Yeah. How much do we want to give up to be okay and live happily? It's a never.
You live.
Huh?
You live.
I know, I'm terrible. It's a never. I mean, Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin, one of them made a fantastic point. If you give away your liberty, you don't deserve it. That's paraphrasing, but it's who knows? It's something that we have struggled with for hundreds of years and will continue to struggle with in the future. But that's a separate issue from where we're at. Yeah. Generally, I mean, it has some parallels, but largely it's separate from where we were at. But I think that kind of wraps up everyone's. That was showed up to the meeting.
Do you have any opinion on the liquor license? Do you have a final conclusion yet?
Final conclusion? No.
Not final conclusion. Do you have a working conclusion that you feel confident about yet?
Where I'm sitting at, where I would personally want to see it happen, I would say take the cap that's currently at 1 in 1,500, drop it to 1 in 1,250
Just
people.
raise it up a little bit.
Yeah, just an incremental thing. So you're always sitting in the city with like 1 or 2 open licenses.
And you said that you feel less government's better in this area.
100%.
Free market's a good thing.
Generally, but at the same time.
So why do you want the cap?
I think allowing the cap and having a consistent basis of having 1 or 2 licenses available is a good enough alternative to the free market at that point.
Yeah.
You're not, if you were to restrict.
But why do you want the cap?
Generally?
I'm not trying to call you out.
I don't want, I feel like it takes the conflict away enough where it's a good compromise from taking away the full free market.
So there's still value that's kept.
Because my biggest thing that I've struggled with is initially I wanted to take the cap off, but I don't want to pay anyone out for it.
Right, yeah.
But now I've seen how this has developed, and the argument I made earlier, it is what it is we're at now. This is a value to these people, and it's something that is determined. Yeah. So the order to keep that value with also keeping a semblance of free market, I want to see a cap on there, but raise it up a little bit. So that way you consistently have a couple of licenses available at all times.
Yeah, makes it. And do you care about? Do you feel like it needs to be regulated at all?
I feel like to a certain degree, it's a harmful substance that should be regulated to some degree. I can't say no. There's too many personal issues that I have had with that I can't say no to.
I think that if you take away the cap. Mm-hmm. By itself, like under the current proposals, then you also have to work to get rid of the 2 a.m.
shutting down. We were talking at that point, because at that stage you have.
That's that free market do its thing.
Let it go free reign. Then, if they want to have an all night nightclub in Minot, let them try it.
Yep.
It's not Miami Beach. I don't know if people love it, but if they want to try it, let them try it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it would be at that point. And now you're opening, and again, free market is the way to go, but that's opening a door that would change so many things in Minot so quickly.
Yeah, right. I want to say one more thing though. I do think, like, because basically what I said is remove the cap, create accountability. I do think that if you remove the cap, there is some type of concession that has to be given to the existing owners, and so that has to be worked out with them. And I'm not a huge fan of the city paying out.
I don't love that.
Millions of dollars is what that turns into, and not a great thing. And honestly, I would be more of a fan of if the city can pull it off so right now they're giving basically over 20 years, they're giving 125,000. If we're going to do that, just give the 125,000. Just do it. Let's move on.
Yeah. Like, don't, like, if you're going to end up doing it, take it out of the reserves and just get it over with. Cut the Band-Aid off.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I'm not advocating for that route, but if that were to be the route that would end up happening, just do it, get it over with.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on. You've been trying to move on.
The last one I was just going to say, I think that wraps my take on what I think the liquor cap should be at this point.
We have a couple other things we're going to talk about. We're going to take a late break because we were in the middle of this very intense topic.
It went deep.
But we'll be back in 60 seconds.
In the demanding world of oil and gas, precision, safety, and efficiency are non-negotiable. Unmanned operator drone services revolutionizes how you monitor, inspect, and manage your operations. With cutting-edge technology and expert operators, we deliver real-time data, detailed reports, and actionable insights for our valuable clients. Why risk the safety of your team or waste precious time? Our drones access even the most challenging areas with ease, reducing downtime and enhancing safety across your sites. We take the guesswork out of your projects by offering LiDAR, mapping, and inspection services so that your projects stay safe, on budget, and on time. Unmanned operator drone services, where technology meets safety, precision, and efficiency. Contact us today to elevate your operations. Yeah.
Hey, we're back.
Hi.
All right. There was a couple things that happened once the public appearances were all done and all that. There's one notable thing. We're not going to go too far down this rabbit trail, but
just fun side note. This is when I came to the meeting.
Yeah.
I showed up pretty much right as the last public appearance was getting over, and so it was going back to Alderman Pittner. I hadn't had a chance to really watch any of it getting off of work and coming there. So I show up, and Alderman Pittner is speaking, giving his, some arguments that he has on what was said, but then all of a sudden he
just directly addresses comments that were made by Anthony Barrett, and it got intense for a minute. People in the chamber crowd in attendance wanted to respond to it, and obviously you can't. You just can't. It's not how it works. How the setup of the meeting is set up.
I want to say one thing really fast before we get off that. In theory, they could have still waited and responded later. They could have sat around till the public appearance section came up after the agenda items and had a response at that point if they wanted.
But they chose to let everyone know they were going to leave.
Yeah. So a few people ended up, they got up. They were upset that they were called out directly. They thought it was inappropriate, and they walked out.
Do I know it was epic? I had to leave because I had something at 7.
Yep.
And I was like, I told the person sitting next to me, I'm like, I'm going to leave at 6:30. And that happened right around 6:30. I was like, dude, I can't leave right now.
Yeah, you had to sit through it.
I had to wait until we moved on a couple things. So that was like, I'm not walking out with the rest of them.
Wait.
Yeah, I just need to go.
I was planning on leaving anyway.
Right, yeah.
Like, it worked out great where we were able to kind of swap there. You were there the first half, I was there for the end of it. But no, that was right when I walked in. I was like, what is going on? What did I miss?
Yeah.
And I sat down next to Josh Walski. I didn't know any of what he had said prior.
Yeah.
Like, had I'd known, I would have said something to him about his meet. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But Alderman Pittner did tie up some loose ends at the end there. And then he directly addressed the Anthony Barrett situation.
Right.
A few of the people that were there with Mr. Barrett ended up walking out. And then discussion kind of went back to the council on how they were going to play it out, because Harold Stewart was like, hey, we were kind of expecting some direction to come from this.
Yeah, this is an important part.
If we don't need direction today, that's one thing, but we need to know what the next steps are going to be.
And we'll find that out in September.
Yeah.
That's where we found out 7. We're going to wait till we have a full council. And September's
40 minutes ago we addressed this.
Yep. So
and that wraps up the liquor license thing.
Other things that were talked about,
Yeah.
the capital improvement plan, which we kind of glossed over already.
Yeah.
And then second half of the meeting,
You
there
go
was
into
some
the agenda
personal
items.
appearance. Yeah.
Well, we'll do the agenda items first.
Let's run through it fast.
Yeah, there was MSU. This has been brought up prior. MSU is teaming up with Minot Police Department, where the Minot Police Department is going to help pay for some criminal justice students' colleges if they commit to work for Minot Police Department for a certain number of years after they graduate, but also as part-time while they're going to school as a community service officer, where they're able to take over a lot of the duties of officers, but not actual official duties. They can do some parts of investigations. They can do the administrative stuff.
It's almost like an apprenticeship.
Yeah, exactly. It's really what it feels like. They're getting into their apprenticeship, and it's something that's going to cost approximately $200,000, but it's paying for itself in the long run if we're able to recoup some of our police force at that rate. Also with it, it's something that is supposed to be amenable at times. It's something that is fluid. It's not stuck in because they're going to have 4 people to start with at the program. It's not something that's going to be 4 every year. It's something if we end up getting the sufficient number of officers, we can temporarily cut it. We could theoretically raise it. They can adjust it as needs rise pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting program. I really like it.
No, it's good.
Chief Plessis went up and he was going to address it, but most of it was addressed before he even got up to speak. So he just spoke on, it's a great program. We're looking forward to getting it to work, and I'm all for it.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's great that we go and focus on recruiting within our city.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's something a lot of other, I think Trinity should take a page out of that notebook.
Well, they do a little bit. They
should do better.
Yeah, they might, but the deal is they do have.
There's a nursing program in Minot,
and they work closely with it.
They do work closely with it, but a lot of those people still end up leaving when they
And
graduate.
so why is that? So what I'm saying is they have the program set up. There may be other problems that are wrong with Trinity, but they had the program set up.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Yep, that's fair enough. I just had to take a shot there.
Yeah.
For no reason.
For no reason.
No reason at all. Yeah.
My.
Anyway, then after the first item, they came to that was the MSU MPD one. Then Broadway Circle. That's right.
Yep.
They finally found someone that is going to take over the homeless shelter part of it.
Yay.
And they're also supposed to repay the city of Minot for Minot's
investment.
Wow. Yeah. We'll see if that happens because it's over a certain amount of years. But I'm interested in Pathfinder Services. That's who it's by.
Okay.
They're going to run the project. They're going to hopefully take it over here coming up soon, and then Minot should, in theory, also be able to recoup a lot of the money that they've put into this over time.
Great job, city staff.
Yes,
because they had to put a ton of work into that.
They've been working on trying to get bids for this for a long time. They've gotten some that have fallen through, and finally, this looks like something that, fingers crossed, should be able to be set in stone and finally taking place come the summertime here.
Right. That's huge, man. Yep. That is huge. Way to go, city.
Yep. Then we had personal appearances after that and had
somebody got caught out for politicking.
Yeah, it happens.
Campaigning. It happens. It happened. It doesn't have to happen.
Yeah, well, I don't think he was there at the start when a lot of the request to not endorse or campaign for anyone was there. So when he got up and endorsed a candidate, it was Alderwoman Olson said, "Hey, we're not doing that."
Well, guys,
too late.
Sorry about our commercial. Our commercial is too loud. I think that's the biggest deal. So we'll tone down that unmanned operator.
Make that happen. Yeah. Sorry if you're listening through headphones and it blew your eardrums out. We'll make that happen. But shout out to Unmanned Operator Services. They're a great drone service. If you do need them, make sure to hit them up. They do a great job.
They do a great job. Yep. So very good.
Then one other thing, it's something that was brought up at the end. The Minot's GIS service that is on through the city website. It has a lot of really unique services that it offers.
Gotcha.
You can see all the different construction projects going on in town, their status. You can see road closures in Minot. It's pretty much a traffic map for Minot, which is really unique concept for how they utilize the GIS system.
Maybe we should go and start a traffic report.
We could. I mean,
the light is red.
But this is something that could work. We could work into our daily brief, possibly. especially in days where
it's not,
it would only be something
like
that
you
we
could go and
do.
talk about construction, like
Yeah.
what areas are closed by construction. You could
Or
do that.
if there's a
I was
specific
literally
road-
being
But if there's
funny.
a specific road closed, it's something that if Broadway's under lights out on Broadway, you could.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen that often. I mean, it happened
in the wintertime. It happens a lot more.
just because someone hits a pole.
It's a couple $100,000 a pop.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I agree with you, Lisa. Alderwoman Olson did an amazing job last night. I agree. She did a good job. Her mic was quiet.
It was, yeah. It was a little quiet.
That's not her fault.
No, but she did a great job chairing the meeting last night.
Yeah, she did a good job.
Phenomenal job.
Yeah, so the other people have audio problems too, I guess.
Yeah. It's not just us.
Yeah, we need to get one of those auto mixing boards. They have them where the auto mixes it.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
We'll deal with that in the future.
All right, very good.
If you do want us to get it, let us know.
It was a good council meeting.
It was. It took 45 minutes to get through the liquor license discussion. So if you missed some of that, go listen back. We break it down, I think, as in depth as we can. I don't know how much more we could get out of that one.
Right. Nope. Overall, great meeting. It'll be interesting to see what happens when this comes back up in September for the liquor license. Other than that, Parkview also they got that buyout stuff that's finally getting all finalized.
We should finally see some resolutions on what's happening with that. Because they did something we should have mentioned at the start. They did have an executive session prior to the city council meeting start yesterday, where they discussed the legal route they were going to continue taking on that situation.
So overall good stuff. Great conversation. I think it's always fun when people turn out to the city council meeting. It's way more fun.
You make it a more interesting thing. It shows people are civically engaged, and you give us content for our podcast. So thank you all.
Yeah. So good times.
Thursday we're going to have a great show.
Yeah, we are.
Yep, we're going to be
legislative roundup.
Yep, wrap up with some legislative stuff. Make sure you check it out. We're going to have some big announcements coming on Thursday. And,
we're planning on it. If everything works out right, it's going to be a pretty big announcement. It's going to affect some things.
It is. We're not just teasing that for the heck of it either. There's legit thing. Hopefully, we'll be able to announce on Thursday.
Yeah. So
make sure you check it out. We're going to have legislative roundup, and it's going to be a good time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you to everybody that took their time to watch this episode.
Thank you. Appreciate every one of you.
Be sure to like and subscribe. Let us know if there's a certain guest you want to have on. Yes, Lisa. There was no jinxing done on time. If anything, we jinxed it, made it short.
It was reverse jinx. Yeah.
And those ones are all right.
I can live with that.
If there's any particular guest you would like us to have on, let us know and we'll make that happen.
Yeah, we'll do our best at least.
Yeah. We'll do our part to make that happen.
That's fair. Yes.
So thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you next time.